Think about the person you are at work, the way you talk, the words you choose, the version of yourself you present so people take you seriously. Now think about the person you are at home, with your family, with the people who knew you before any of that. Different, right? Most of us carry 2 or 3 versions of ourselves. We switch between them without thinking. We've done it so long we barely notice. Now imagine you had to pick one. Not for a job interview, not for a first date, forever. Imagine you had to become someone else so completely. New name, new country, new beliefs, that after 20 years, you genuinely couldn't remember which one you started as. That is not a thought experiment. That is what happened to Morris Childs, and what he did with it changed the Cold War. Morris Childs was born in Ukraine in 1902. His family moved to Chicago when he was 9 years old. He grew up poor, ambitious, and angry at the way the world was organized. When he was a teenager, he found communism. And he didn't just find it the way you find a playlist you like. He gave his entire life to it. He rose through the ranks of the American Communist Party. He ran for Congress. He became the editor of the party's national newspaper. He was one of the most important communists in the United States, and he believed every word of it. In 1929, the party sent him to Moscow to attend an elite school that trained revolutionary leaders from around the world. He learned strategy, organizing, and underground techniques. He also made friends, including a young Soviet official named Mikhail Suslov, who would later become one of the most powerful men in the Soviet Union. And while he was there, Soviet intelligence recruited him as an informer. He agreed immediately. He was 27 years old. He thought he was serving something bigger than himself. He was right. He just hadn't figured out yet what that something was. The next 15 years were the life he had chosen. Party work, organizing, true belief. Then, slowly, the cracks appeared. Stalin's mass killings, the famine that the party told him not to talk about, the agreement between Stalin and Hitler in 1939, which the American Party told its members to support. No arguments, no questions. Morris had questions, but he stayed. Then, in 1945, an internal power struggle destroyed the career of Morris's mentor, the man who had led the party for a generation. Morris was associated with the wrong side. He lost his position. Then his health collapsed. A series of heart attacks left him sick, broke, and sidelined. The cause he had devoted his life to did not send flowers. They did not call. They moved on. Morris Childs spent the next few years running a small hardware store in New York City. Physically weak, politically invisible, forgotten. Here is the part of the story that feels the most familiar. That specific experience. Giving everything to something, believing in it completely, and then having it discard you like you never mattered, is not unique to Cold War communism. Most people know that feeling. Morris knew it at 50 years old, after 3 decades of total commitment, and that is exactly when the FBI knocked on his brother's door. Jack Childs had also been in the party, also sidelined, also done. When the FBI agents asked if Jack would be willing to help them, he told them directly. He had never really believed any of it, and then he said, "Morris is your ticket to the top." The FBI helped arrange for Morris to receive medical treatment he could not afford on his own. His health improved. In 1952, an FBI agent named Carl Freeman sat down with Morris for the first time. They talked for a long time about politics, philosophy, about what communism had promised and what it had actually delivered. Morris agreed to work for the FBI. He would go back to the Communist Party, rise again through the ranks, become trusted again, and report everything he heard. Nobody knew. Why would they suspect him? He was exactly who he appeared to be. Here is where the identity part of the story gets interesting. Morris didn't perform his return to the party. He lived it. He reached out to old friends. He showed up at meetings. He was warm, committed, engaged. The same Morris they had always known. Because here's the thing about performing an identity for long enough. At some point, the performance stops being a performance. Morris Childs had spent 30 years as a committed communist. That didn't disappear when he signed up with the FBI. The beliefs, the relationships, the way he moved through those rooms, all of it was still real. It had to be. Because if it wasn't, someone would notice. In 1957, the leader of the Communist Party, USA, gave Morris a new assignment. The party needed someone to travel secretly to Moscow, someone trusted, someone the Soviets would let into the room. Morris was the obvious choice. On April 24th, 1958, Morris Childs boarded a plane to Paris. From Paris, east. He arrived in Moscow as the official representative of the American Communist Party. He was also, at the same time, FBI Agent 58. Operation Solo had begun. Over the next 23 years, Morris made 52 secret trips to the Soviet Union, China, Cuba, and Eastern Europe. He sat across from Khrushchev, who called him the last of the true Bolsheviks. He had private conversations with Mao Zedong. He met Fidel Castro. He developed a close personal friendship with Leonid Brezhnev, the leader of the Soviet Union. The Soviets gave Morris his own apartment in Moscow. They asked for his opinions on American politics. They told him things they didn't tell other people. They trusted him completely. And after every single conversation, every private dinner, every late-night talk, Morris went back to his room and wrote down everything he remembered. Every name, every number, every secret. Then he brought it home to the FBI. Over 2 decades, he produced more than 7,000 intelligence reports. The information was so sensitive, it had to be hand-delivered directly to the President of the United States and the Secretary of State. Not emailed, not filed, hand-delivered. Because if anyone found out where it came from, the operation would be over. Here is what that information actually did. When President Kennedy was assassinated in 1963, there was enormous fear inside the American government that the Soviet Union might have been involved. From his conversations in Moscow, Morris was able to confirm to the FBI that the Soviets had nothing to do with it. A misunderstanding that could have ended in a nuclear war was quietly avoided. Then there was China. In the 1960s, most Western experts believed that the split between the Soviet Union and China was not real. That it was a trick, a show put on to confuse the West. Morris had sat in rooms with both sides. He knew it was real. That knowledge gave President Nixon and his advisor, Henry Kissinger, the confidence to open diplomatic relations with China in 1972. One of the most important political moments of the 20th century was built on intelligence gathered by a Ukrainian-born man from Chicago, who was simultaneously the most trusted American in Moscow and an FBI agent. And then there was the money. Jack Childs had become the channel through which the Soviet Union secretly sent millions of dollars to fund the American Communist Party. Jack accepted every dollar and reported every single bill to the FBI. The FBI recorded the serial number of every note until the amounts got so large they could only track the first and last number of each bundle. By the end of the operation, more than $28 million in Soviet money had flowed through the Childs brothers to the American Party. The Soviets thought they were funding a revolution. They were funding the FBI's most successful intelligence operation in history. In 1975, Leonid Brezhnev hosted a private birthday dinner for Morris at the Kremlin. Morris was turning 75. At the end of the evening, Brezhnev stood up, walked over to where Morris was sitting, and pinned the Order of the Red Banner onto his chest. It was one of the Soviet Union's highest honors, given for outstanding service to the communist cause. Morris smiled and accepted it. Then he went home and filed a report with the FBI. By 1977, Morris was 75 years old. Jack was slowing down. 23 years of living inside a secret had exhausted them both. The operation quietly ended. Jack died in 1980. Morris and his wife Eva disappeared into the FBI's Witness Protection Program in 1981. The party searched for them and could not find them. They were never told what had happened. In 1987, President Ronald Reagan awarded Morris Childs the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor in the United States. The ceremony was private. Almost no one outside the room knew it was happening. Morris was 85 years old. He had received the Soviet Union's highest honor for service to communism. He had received America's highest civilian honor for service to the United States. He was the only person in Cold War history to hold both. Morris Childs died on June 5th, 1991. 6 months later, the Soviet Union fell. At his funeral, the FBI still could not tell the full truth. The most an agent could do was stand up in a synagogue full of people who had known Morris for decades. Old friends, old comrades, people who had believed completely that he was one of them, and say, this man was an invaluable asset to the United States. His accomplishments were staggering. The room went silent. Then everyone gasped. Think back to what I said at the beginning. We all carry different versions of ourselves. The one we show at work, the one we show at home, the one we protect, the one we perform. Morris Childs carried more versions than most people could hold. The true believer who gave 30 years to a cause he genuinely loved. The betrayed man who was discarded by that cause when he got sick. The FBI agent who spent 23 more years inside the world that had thrown him away. The man that Brezhnev trusted enough to pin a medal on. The man that Reagan trusted enough to give a medal to. The husband who hid under hotel bed covers in Moscow with his wife Eva, holding a flashlight while she copied secret Soviet documents, both of them wrapping the pages in plastic around their bodies to smuggle them out. Which one was the real Morris Childs? Here's what I think. All of them were. That is not a contradiction. That is a human being. The file they kept on him could never hold all of that. Files never can. This is the buried record. Some people are not missing. They are misfiled. The file is still open. Subscribe to follow the archive.